Tasha, take us through. When did you first hear about this?
So June 2nd of last year, we got an email from Superintendent Antonucci that a decision had been made about the book Woke. That was the first we heard. We had lots of conversation for the months after that, but as you've probably read in the news, we're in the middle of rewriting all of our policies and having those reviewed. So there wasn't much that we did in the interim, and then it hit the Boston Globe.
So the book was actually taken off the library shelves. I don't want to say banned, I don't want to say removed, taken off the library shelves in May of last year.
So I don't know what day it was actually taken off. That I don't know. I just know that we knew of the decision on June 2nd.
Now, how well do you know the policy? You probably know the policy real well right now,
I do now.
compared to a week ago. Were John Antonucci's hands tied? Did he have to take the recommendation of this committee?
So he didn't have to, and I think there was a little bit of confusion about it because there are two policies, and it seems like one was what was really focused on. If the complaint came in or a request for review, what was supposed to happen at that individual school, and everyone seemed to really focus on that. And then the second piece was, we've since realized that it was an issue.
One of the complaints I've heard, and I've been on social media, and there, of course, have been many, is that the decision recommending to remove the book made by a committee, a nameless committee. I know the Sun Chronicle is filing a Freedom of Information Act looking for documentation. Why is this policy so secretive?
That's one of my biggest problems with it. I have two problems with it. That's the first, is that we don't know who made this decision. Those individuals who made the decision are chosen by the principal. And I don't like the secretive nature of it. It needs to be a public process. And part of the reason it needs to be a public process is my second issue. So the way that the policy is written right now, each school can convene their own committee. And so if we think about AMVET and Roosevelt, you can walk from one to the other. You could have a complaint at AMVET and a complaint at Roosevelt, and they could have different results. And when we're dealing with books of any kind that could address populations that are protected by federal law and are entitled to additional considerations beyond just curriculum, it doesn't make sense that we could have two different decisions at elementary schools in the same district. So I would really like to see a unified policy that addresses it on a district-wide level so that we don't have pockets of disparate information available to our kids.
I know one thing Mike Borg, town manager, feels very strongly about is transparency, communicating to the public, and transparency certainly was not used here, and not to influence the upcoming policy. Wouldn't it make more sense for this decision to be made by a school committee, which are actually elected by the voters?
It could. I think we at least need to have a voice in it. I don't know who should be the ultimate decision maker, but one of the things that I've talked with the superintendent about is that he could have come to us even for input, that we wouldn't have necessarily had a vote, but certainly we should have had some input in the discussion. Under the current policy, as I said, we didn't. When I first, on June 2nd, learned of the decision, my immediate response to Superintendent Antonucci was, who from school committee was on this? Because the policy mentions school council, and I thought that was kind of a euphemism for school committee. School council is defined by a different statute. It's specific to that school. And so there just seems to be a lot of language that's outdated in the policies. But certainly there's a lot of work to be done.
The school committee hadn't met, and they don't meet again until February 6th. The town council, of course, did meet on Monday night. How much of an impact in the book being back on the shelves were the comments from town councilors, and especially Darius Gregory, walking out of the meeting?
I was at that meeting, and I would say his response was very powerful. Not just walking out, but really everyone's conversation about it. And you sit there and you listen to 7 or 8 different people, depending on who's there, and none of us, I can't read anyone's mind. So it was informative to me to understand the counselors' perspectives on it. In terms of how much of an impact that had, it was one of many, many pieces. I'd been in conversation with Dr. Antonucci for days on end, and just kind of monitoring the situation and talking with him about what he thought would be the best response from his office. In terms of the school committee, I don't know. We're going to talk about it on February 6th and get all of our own thoughts on what influenced everyone's opinions on it. We haven't done that because we haven't convened a committee.
I need to be honest with you. I spoke to a couple members of the town council after that meeting. They saw you there. They were a little disappointed you didn't speak. Why not?
So I can't when I can take an individual position, which is what I'm doing now. I was really there to kind of get a sense of where everyone else was.
You were taking a lot of notes.
I was, and that was intentional because I'm only one of many people who's involved in this decision, and I don't feel that I could have brought anything of value other than that I'm trying to gather information so that we can make the best decision that we can. I wanted to be there so that they understood I'm invested in what they have to say and that they do matter to the process, but I didn't feel I had anything to really add that night other than to receive information.
Is this what you signed up for when you agreed
No.
to be chair? That being said, February 6th, my guess is there are going to be residents there, parents there, who are still upset. You as chair, as a school committee member, are you ready to take the heat? Are you ready for them to all have their say?
I think they should. I think everyone has something to say about this, and if they do, then they should be heard. I responded to the Sun Chronicle with an inquiry, and I was very careful in that, not to say that there are two sides to the story, but really that everyone has value to add to this discussion. And they do. There isn't a yes or a no decision to be made. It's really a conversation about our community conscience and what everyone has to contribute to that. And I want to hear that. I think we need to hear that. And again, I'm not there to make an individual decision from my own perspective. We're there to represent the collective body of the town. And so much as we do or don't know what they're thinking and feeling, we can only do what we know.
So people are welcome on February 6th.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Tasha.